I spent several years of my working life commuting in and out of Victoria on a daily basis. Here we are, January, grey, grim, wet, and we're back here again. My name's Paul Isles, and this is Accurascale's latest product announcement video. Right, that's my ticket sorted. Now to find the nearest 8-car multiple unit. So I'm here at Victoria today, but I could quite easily have gone to Paddington or to King's Cross or to Liverpool Street or to Fenchurch Street to see the object of our next announcement. So have you guessed what it is that we're modelling yet? Let's go find one. What we are going to introduce to the Accurascale range of tooling is the Electrostar family. So obviously, saying we're doing Electrostar is quite a wide-ranging thing. The Electrostar family is made up of 7 groups, and we're not going to be doing all of the groups. So for us, Electrostar family means the 375s, the 377s, the 379s, and the 387s. And that's one of the reasons why we've come along here today to Reading Depot to have a look at GWR's fleet of 387s, run you through the project and run you through the bits on the actual Electrostar, just to point out some of the key points of our design. Between those 4 classes, they're then further split down into further subclasses. And that extends the whole story of the Electrostar and makes it even more difficult for tooling, because each subclass has got different characteristics, different interiors, different roof arrangements, whether it's pantograph fitted, whether it's dual fitted with pantographs and third rail equipment, seating arrangements, so much to take into account. So for these first runs, we've honed it down further. What we're doing is we're bringing you models of the 3756s, the 3772s, 3775s, and the 387s, classes, the subclasses 1 and 2. They're third rail and overhead equipped models. So you've got a lot of a bang for your buck, if you like, within that. Now the Electrostar story is quite complicated. 3 manufacturers have been involved. The 375s were manufactured by Adtrans, apart from the last couple of subclasses, which is where Bombardier took over and took the design forward. Now, when Bombardier did the rest of the class, moved forward, and then were taken over themselves by Alstom. And it was through Alstom that we've managed to get access to the various places. So we're going up to Derby, for instance, or to Ramsgate, and even here at Reading, where we're working with former colleagues at GWR. So it's been quite an all-encompassing project in terms of cooperation and people working together. It's also extended the course of the project. It's been quite in-depth, and it's lasted from the lockdowns of COVID right the way through to today. An awful lot of work has gone in to getting to this point where we can announce the tooling. Now, in total, 488 units of the Electrostars in those 4 classes have been built. So when you think that each is 4 cars, that's a massive amount of vehicles that have to be considered. But it's been challenging, but it's been worthwhile. So why Electrostar? Well, to be honest, with the time that they've been manufactured, they're still very prevalent on the network. They're obviously popular because a lot of people have been saying they want to see Electrostar models. And that goes back 3-4 years to when we first started this project. And since then, the call has only increased. I think the most important part about it is the geographic spread of the type. You might just associate the Electrostars with 375s in southeastern service, coming up from Dover and Ramsgate into London and Victoria Station. But there's more to it than that. The 377s also run with Southern and with Southeastern as well, but they're mainly associated with Southern. And from their bases, they run down to Brighton and then along the coast to Portsmouth to Southampton. And that adds an extra south coast element to it. The 379s take up the routes up through to Stansted and into Cambridge and on to King's Lynn, which extends it northwards. Also run out to Shoebury Ness at one point. So we're coming up through Essex and into Norfolk. Then with the 387s, well, they extend into Cardiff and also around and up the Great Northern section into Cambridge. So we've now got this rapidly expanding area of operation that extends across most of southern Britain. And if you include the likes of Bedford as being lower Midlands, then the type have increased even more. It's a fascinating way of being able to model, and depending on the livery that is used, then you've got various ways of modelling. You know, from the bright red of the Gatwick Express, through to the green of Southern and the blue of Southeastern, and then the green of GWR. So what goes into the design of the Electrostar? Well, quite a lot. And between the 4 classes, there's some important but subtle differences. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a walk down this 387 unit and we'll point out some of the areas that are being paid attention to. And then we'll sit down with you and run through these in greater detail at a later point. The front end of any electrical unit is important. And this has been scanned. We've got the profile, as well as all the drawings that have been provided to us by Bombardier anyway. Things like the light units and the light clusters change as they go through. Couplings are fairly fixed, front ends are fairly fixed. Things like CCTV, now that changes between, say, the 375s and the 377s, 79s and 87s. There's other slight differences as we go through, type of steps. Arrangement of windows is another important factor. Obviously the later ones using the single piece windows, whereas with the other classes, they're ribbon glazing. So that all has to be accounted for in the tooling, so that parts can be swapped out and introduced as needed. Now, the challenges with doing an electrical unit mean that you've got a locomotive, but you've also got a coach. So the whole thing is very open. And that means that you've got to hide the electrical equipment. And a lot of the wiring runs either take place up above into the roof line, or they come down lower and then circulate through the underframe. Things that we've included are standard, so the speakers will be in every coach. And the most important thing we're doing is that a single decoder will power the entire 4-car unit. And this is achieved through multi-part connectors set into each gangway. I think they're 10 pins. So that means that you need one decoder and all the lighting functions, the pantograph, everything is controlled from that one decoder. Obviously that saves you, the customer, quite a bit of money. As we come through, the interiors change. As I mentioned before, each different subclass has got a different interior. And it's not just as simple as 2+2 or 2+3 seating. There are subtle differences within the way they're arranged as well. And all this has been accounted for. The underframes to the Electrostars are hugely complex. Compressors and converters and all manner of electrical equipment. So we had to find a different way of tackling this. Yes, you can survey, but the challenges of being in a third rail environment mean you can rarely get down at rail level. Now we're lucky here at Reading in that everything is running off in the shed over the overhead power. There's no third rail to worry about here. But for surveying over on Southeastern, that's a different kettle of fish. So what do? We can't get down to measure as we would do. Certainly can't place rulers against equipment. So what we did is we employed a specialist company to do underframe scanning. So basically what happens is the 3D scanner is mounted on the railhead and then propelled underneath. And so we get a bottom-up scan instead of the more traditional side-to-side and above scans. Now this results in a hugely detailed underframe. And when that translates into CAD, it gets very complicated with huge files generated. And that slows down the whole design process. But we got there in the end. As we mentioned before, there are so many elements, and what we are effectively doing with a multiple unit is combining a coach with a locomotive and everything that goes with it. Sound as well. On this, we've got the interior lighting, and the interior lighting functions have been built into this to make it as realistic as possible. And that even includes the CDL lighting. So we've introduced this. This will be an extra function on your DCC functions, and these will be able to operate. So you've got all the interior lighting modes, cab lighting, and the different front lighting modes as well. Even down to pantograph lights and the additional railhead light that you've seen introduced on 377 and 387 units in later years. All in all, it's a very complicated setup, and the electrical design has gone through ESU, our partners who we work with, in the same way as we work through the CAD. So whereas with, say, a loco, we might design it and then work on the electrical design, this time the two have gone hand in hand, with each stage being refined. It is, as I've said before, quite a complicated project. So just to add to the general complexity, we've included a working pantograph. And here we are with the PTO SOL. And as you can see, pantographs extended. So taking the lessons that we've learned from the 92, we've incorporated that into the design. Now, obviously, when you've got a locomotive, you've got a big blank of body to hide the internal workings. So what we've had to do is hide the pantograph electrics up in the roof section. And there is a little bit of compromise where we lower the roof section slightly, but that's no different in the real thing. You'll notice when you're on board that the luggage racks are missing in the section underneath a pantograph. And that's effectively what we've done with the model. Of course, there's a lot of bearings because not only have we got the pantograph, which works, but then that affects the underframe equipment that we've got as well. And we've got these huge converters that go underneath. Now, at the moment, that's fine. But when we come to the stock that isn't pantograph fitted, these are then replaced with ballast tanks or are even missing altogether. So just an added little extra that goes into planning with a range of the Electrostar vehicles. So where does this leave the project? Well, everything is signed off. The CAD's signed off, the electric design is signed off, and we're working on the sound as we speak. Now, a project like this for a multiple unit is not cheap. It's an expensive project. We need to find a way to keep the RRP down whilst keeping detail up. Now, with the Class 89 project with Rails of Sheffield coming to an end, and with nearly delivered, it's time to embark on our second project with Rails. And so we're partnering up to offer the first 2 runs of the Electrostars through both avenues. This keeps the RRP down and makes it more affordable for you, the customer. All the details of the prices are in the link below, and you can find details there about ordering, the SKUs available. And what we will do is we will run through these in greater detail in the weeks ahead. But in the meantime, it's a grey January day, it's freezing cold out here, and for once I need to get in the warm and get a brew inside.